What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. It is time for the 2018 DGN Awards. I wanted to go back through some of the moments of 2018 and highlight some of my favorite shots, some of my less than favorite shots, and interesting and exciting moments that took place over the course of the 2018 professional disc golf season. First of all, I know I'm kind of late with this. You guys can probably tell by my voice that I'm kind of sick. I've been battling like half a cold since, honestly, like mid-December. So it's just been really tough. And then with the holidays and stuff, I had a bunch of time. I actually took off some time from work, but I was just really not feeling very well. My voice has been really scratchy. My nose has been really stuffed up. But at this point, I don't really have any more time to wait. So I either push through it and get this episode out for you guys now, or it becomes kind of meaningless. It's already definitely late. I would have preferred to have it be done the first week in January or so, or even late December. But I certainly need to get it done as soon as possible. So here we go. We're going in. We're going to talk about some of my favorite moments. I'm going to probably have to stop and trim out a bunch of coughing and potentially some nose blowing and take some breaks to kind of get a drink and try to keep my voice clear, but I'm going to do my best. We're going to go through my favorite moments of 2018. Okay, let's start with my personal moment of the year for 2018. It was a great year for me out there on the course. I did not play nearly as much as I wanted to, but I set several personal bests at various different courses around town. I had some really great rounds, and I also managed to pick up a few more aces. I suffered through a very long drought with no aces for a number of years, and then finally was able to break through that in 2018 and pick up a couple, one of which was inarguably the absolute best shot I've ever thrown in my entire life. And let's break it down. So it was Stub Stewart State Park, and I told this story on the podcast already, but I'm going in again because it was definitely deserves mentioning as a moment of the year for me personally. So we tried to head out to Buxton was the plan. It was me and Anthony and Andy. We got out to Buxton and discovered that they were having a tournament there, so we had to leave. Luckily, Stub Stewart State Park is only about 10 minutes away or less. And it's a great wooded track, honestly becoming potentially my favorite course. I just love it. There's so many nice things about it. I love wooded golf. I love the hike. The forest itself is absolutely beautiful and dead quiet. You never hear anything from the outside world, not a car, nothing like that. It's just birds and the forest, and it's just unbelievable in there. It's so peaceful and beautiful just to be in the woods there, let alone to play such a great track while you're back there. Phenomenal course, tons of elevation, extremely tight wooded lines, but I think it's fair. It has fair lines that you can hit. Some of the holes are very difficult, but they are doable, and I just really love it. It's a great course. So we got into the course. I was playing pretty well. I think I birdied the first two holes, and then I had a couple of bogeys, and then I got another birdie. Cruising along, we get to hole 7. Hole 7 is a downhill shot. It kind of sweeps through a gap down the hill to the right, and it is, I think, 320, 330, something like that. And it's about 40 feet down in terms of elevation as well, so it's pretty sharply downhill. I love this shot. I haven't executed it terribly well in the past, but I love throwing downhill. It's difficult to get a shot to fly downhill and also move to the right, especially for me. I don't have a forehand where I could kind of like hang out a forehand on a little anhyzer down through the gap and then let it hook up and move right. So I have to throw something flippy. I pulled out my Opto Fury. It's 165 gram, somewhat domey Opto Fury. It's super flippy. I use it for all of those type of shots. So I don't have a forehand really. So I can throw this thing on a steep anhyzer, and it will turn hard enough that it will kind of almost mimic like a forehand hyzer shot. Great disc in the woods, and obviously the perfect disc for this shot. I was trying to be really conscious of keeping the nose down, and I knew if I threw it hard enough, it would naturally turn and move to the right. So I was just focusing on keeping that nose down, getting it down through the gap on the right angle. I snapped it just right. I don't even know if I threw it flat. I probably threw it with a tiny bit of hyzer, nice and nose down, and it just stood up perfectly and started sweeping right at the right time. It bent around the corner. I didn't quite have an angle to see it go in, but I kind of looked for an angle through the woods. I watched it as long as I could through the trees, and then right as it was entering the green, I knew it was a good shot, and I was pretty stoked on it. I turned to look at Andy for his reaction, and from behind me, way off in the distance, I just hear the ching of the chains, like real faint. And I just turned. I'm like, did that just go in? And just lost my mind. I was jumping up and down, high-fiving, yelling. I mean, I was so amped. It was the most amped I've ever been because I couldn't believe. I was shocked at how well I executed the shot to begin with. Had it just landed on the green, I would have been more than happy. I would have still been the best shot I threw all day. And then the fact that it went straight in. I didn't see it go in, but based on where it was in the basket, it must have hit dead center because it was sitting right in line with the tee pad, dead center, just sitting right there in the basket. Pure chains, easily the best shot I've ever thrown, and undoubtedly my moment of the year for 2018. Definitely some good ones. Had a lot of good times out there on the course and had some fun. And I'm looking forward to hopefully picking up some more aces in 2019. I also picked up 2 different aces with Caltrups, my soft Caltrup on the short course at Stub Stewart. That was the one that kind of opened the floodgates again. And then that was fun. And then I hit one at Vance Park on hole 7. Is it hole 7? Yeah, Vance at hole 7 with a Opto Caltrup on the wide Spikeheiser line straight into the chains. That was cool too because I was with one of my oldest friends who was actually like one of my early disc golf buddies that I would play with a lot when I had no idea what I was doing back in those days. So it was cool to kind of play with him and for him to be there and get that ace. Another cool thing that happened that day is that I gifted him my last DGN stamped EMAC Truth, and he actually came crazy close to getting an ace on the last shot of the day with it, which would have been so cool to get 2 in a day and have him hit an ace with it with a disc I just gave him, the DGN disc. That would have been pretty cool. I have actually heard from somebody, I have a screenshot on my phone, that they hit their first ever ace with a DGN stamped EMAC Truth. I thought that was so cool. I was so happy when they sent me that. That was awesome. Okay, disc of the year. We're going with the Innova Rat, the Star Rat. I tested not that many new releases this year. I mean, definitely several, and plenty of good ones. The Maverick, the Captain, the Vulture, the Gateway Prophecy surprised me. That was a great disc, and a bunch of other ones. The Musket is a good flyer. Yeah, I've definitely tested some other plastic this year, but not a ton of new releases overall. A little bit of a slow year for me for reviews. I still crested 200 reviews this year, or I just did, actually, I guess early 2019. But the Star Rat stands out to me as just one of the best discs I've tested. It basically flies like a really nice overstable approach disc that's already broken in. So like your best broken in zone or harp or something like that. The Star Rat is like that straight off the shelf. So I really like that. It flies laser straight with power, thrown flat, with just a tiny fade at the end of the flight. You can get it to turn. You can get it to hyzer. It's a really functional disc. It'd be a great forehand approach disc. It's actually one of the discs I think that we'll likely see Ricky throwing for his forehand approaches to kind of fill the role of his broken-in harps that he's been throwing for the last few years, his BT Hard harp. I think a Star Rat would be a great option for that. Also, maybe a DX AVR X3. We'll see. We'll see where he ends up. I'm sure he's still testing plastic, but the Star Rat's a great disc, and I'm going to give it my disc of the year. You can see the full review of that disc as well as some flight demos and stuff with Andy throwing it, and on my channel here, of course. Moving on, I added a few new categories this year. I don't think I have a worst putt on here, but you know, the worst putt award of the year is a little bit silly because you could just kind of take any miss within 10 or 15 feet and you could say it's the worst putt you've seen all year. So I kind of didn't even bother with that particular award this year. Let's go with chain out of the year. This one took place at the GBOs. Drew Gibson, let me take a look at my notes here. Drew Gibson, GBO, hole 15 during the final round. You can see it on Jomez. I actually took some screenshots of all these different shots and moments, so that you can take a look at exactly when they happened on YouTube and see all these different moments over the course of the year. I don't think I picked anything that wasn't documented as well, because obviously I had to have seen it somewhere unless I saw it in person, which I only spectated one event. Anyway, 2018 GBO on Jomez. Lead card, final round, back nine. It is at 15 minutes and 41 seconds. Drew Gibson throws a perfect shot right on the same line as Simon. Simon puts it like 5 feet away. Drew throws next. He corrects just slightly from Simon, tracks the basket every step of the way, splashes center chain just a little too high, and it just it won't stay in. It's coming in so hot, and it just splashes out. I would have loved to see that go in just because it was an amazing shot, and also who knows what that would have meant for the momentum of the battle at that point. We had multiple players battling for the win, a big national tour event, the GBO, huge event, and that was a really great moment. And one I'm sure Drew will never forget, splashing out chains on that. It would have been so cool to have that ace in that moment. But what can you do? That's a chain out of the year. Big hug goes out to Drew Gibson for that one. Roller of the year. We're going to give this one to Eagle McMahon. Let me pull up my screenshot here. Also, just so you guys know, I plan to put all the screenshots for this on my Instagram story once I post this episode. So if you're listening to this episode, if you follow me on Instagram, you should be able to go through my story that same day, and you'll see all these screenshots from all these different moments, and I'll try to put the category for each shot on there so you can track down exactly when these different shots happened. Roller of the year goes to Eagle McMahon. It's on the 2018 Memorial Championship final round lead card on Jomez. It takes place at around 1 minute and 55 seconds into the video. Simon had just thrown a monstrous roller with a disc that I probably couldn't get to even hold a turnover, let alone get down on a roller. I mean, I probably couldn't even get it to turn much at all, to be perfectly honest. The PD2 is a really overstable disc. Simon can throw it hard enough, and maybe it's a slightly broken in one, I have no idea. He rips this thing over, gets a monstrous roller, and then right after that, not to be outdone, Eagle tops him by, I don't even know, at least 50 more feet, rolls through the pavilion, underneath a picnic table, out the other side. It had to be over 600-foot roller, just absolutely gross. Unbelievable shot, so that's got to be Roller of the Year. And I didn't start out the show with it, I'll say it now. All these different awards and distinctions that I'm trying to give here, they're not a big deal. It's just me. I know I'm not I know this isn't a real award ceremony. You know, I'm just doing this for fun, and you guys seem to like it last year. I had a good time recording the last one, so I figured I'd do it again. But it's all really subjective. There have been incredible shots since the first event of the year, and just it didn't slow down at all. Every event had unbelievable shots. I could have went in a million different ways with all these different things, but I think that's probably a safe bet to be the Roller of the Year. There was one with AJ at Ledgestone that I didn't go back and look at. I probably should have checked that out again to see how to see if maybe that was a contender. But this one stands out as Roller of the Year, Eagle McMahon at the Memorial. Let's move on. Bad break of the year. Speaking of AJ and speaking of the Ledgestone, AJ took a great run at the Ledgestone this year. Wasn't able to pull it off. Had a pretty epic meltdown on the island hole, which kind of took him out of it. It ended up being a battle between Nate Sexton and Chris Dickerson. Chris Dickerson on the final hole, 2018 Ledgestone Insurance Open, round 4, part 2 on Central Coast at 28 minutes and 13 seconds or thereabouts. He throws a shot. It gets all the way down there. It puts him right up on top of the basket, downhill. He'd been jamming from that range the entire event. His little step putt from that range has been money the entire event. Everybody thinks if it stays right there, everybody thinks he's very likely to jam that, forcing Nate Sexton to get up and down. Instead, the shot lands there, somehow stands up, and just slow roll trickles all the way down into the water OB, and Nate Sexton was able to lay up for the win. So it was just a really bad break for Chris, and I thought that was just really, really unfortunate, and got to be the bad break of the year as far as I'm concerned. It was an amazing battle, and it would have been really great to have that shot stay where it was, and if he, at least give him the chance to make that putt and what can you do? That's disc golf. Sometimes you get the break, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you kick off a tree and it goes in the basket. Sometimes you throw a perfectly fine shot that stands up and rolls away for no reason. I mean, it's just part of the game. There's definitely luck involved, and what are you going to do? That's sports, I guess. All right, now let's transition to an award you do not want to win. This is Worst Shot of the Year. One of the shots from Simon at GBO stands out in my mind, but I didn't have time to track it down. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. He threw just a complete grounder. It was a terrible shot, and definitely deserving of one of the worst shots of the year. He just totally shanked it, grounder, and I think it cut rolled OB too. I don't even know what happened. It was like a forehand, and he just threw it straight at the ground, and it stood up, cut rolled OB. Terrible shot. But this shot, I'm giving it the worst shot of the year because of the context. Unfortunately, it's going to Sarah Hokum, and this was from the Waco Annual Charity Open 2018 battle taking place between her and Paige Pierce. They get to hole 18, and Sarah Hokum, she goes for a backhand here, which kind of makes sense in some ways because the water is on the right-hand side. She must have been afraid of the water because she threw some kind of a disc that's just unbelievably overstable, and it comes out of her hand on this sharp hyzer angle, and it knifes out to the left and immediately skips and stands up and rolls straight out of bounds onto the sidewalk. The reason why this shot is just stands out in my memory is such a poorly executed shot for a number of different reasons. There's a big landing space out there that she can work with on a backhand if you're going to lay up. She throws something that's crazy overstable, which doesn't make sense knowing that Sarah's not a very strong backhand player. Why not just throw a nice straight stable fairway driver or even a mid-range to throw up a nice smooth flat shot out there, take a lot of the chance of it. You could throw a stable mid-range on a slight hyzer and have plenty of room to get a layup in there. I don't know what she ended up throwing. Maybe it was a fighter or something. It was extremely overstable. Immediately starts cutting straight out of bounds, which is the one thing you couldn't do. The one mistake she couldn't do in that moment. And my heart goes out to Sarah for that one. That was a rough one, and I think that's got to be the worst shot I've seen all year, unfortunately. And it ended up costing her the tournament, ultimately, because I believe Paige went over the water, as we all kind of knew she would, and got it over there and was able to get up and down for the win. At any other shot, Sarah stayed in bounds, and she was able to throw over the water and get up and down. It could have been much different, but unfortunately that's not the way it went down. Okay, I didn't actually write these ones down, but let's go with Player of the Year for the FPO and MPO division. This one's tough. I think you could make a strong argument for Sarah Hokum or Paige Pierce in the FPO division. It's kind of a coin toss. They both had great tournaments. They both had great seasons. But I think I'm just going to give it to Paige because of the unbelievable start that she had. I mean, at one point the whole disc golf community was questioning whether or not she was going to go undefeated for the season. She was steamrolling the field so bad for the first several events in a row that we were thinking this is crazy. This could be the most insane dominant season of all time. She ended up slowing down considerably. Sarah ended up picking up a number of wins on the towards the end of the season, towards the middle to the end of the season. But for quite a while there, Paige was just looking unbeatable, and I think by a small margin I'm going to give her Player of the Year overall. I think that's fair, but again, it's kind of a tough one. In the MPO division, it's the same thing. Now, usually my boy Rick is way up there, but you can't even really bring him into the discussion. Inarguably a very off year for Ricky Wysocki, but it happens. What are you going to do? He was the best player in the world for 2016 and 2017, in my opinion. I don't think there's any opinion needed for 2016. 2017, you could maybe make the case that Paul had a better year or whatever, was the better player that year, but Rick won more events, won more money, and I think it's pretty clear he was the best player in the world for those 2 years. But definitely an off year. So for 2018, it came down to Eagle McMahon and Paul McBeth. Eagle McMahon had an unbelievable start to the season, winning his first national tour, one of his first big events overall. He had his first major win. He won GBO. He won Beaver State. And he was just looking unbeatable. His confidence was sky high. He was hitting amazing putts. Power the kid has is just ungodly. His performance at Beaver State was incredible. The way he battled Rick, Drew, and Simon at GBO and shut them all down and took the win there was unbelievable as well. And Eagle was on his way to having like the most incredible season, and it was still phenomenal. But all of a sudden, Paul McBeth just started charging. He had the 18 down. He won USDGC. He won a bunch of other events. He was playing unbelievable. And this one's kind of a coin toss. I think overall, I'm going to say that I think Paul McBeth had the better season, was the better player overall for the year, but it's very tight margins. Again, a huge breakout season for Eagle McMahon. I think big things are going to come from him in 2019 and beyond. He's still really young. We'll see what happens with Paul after this new Discraft transition, but I don't think it's going to hurt him. Discraft Plastic, they're just doing a great job, and they always have. They always have, and this whole Paul thing has been funny because all of a sudden all these people are like, throwing Discraft now. It's like, where were you guys this whole time? Like, I've been throwing Discraft this whole time. It's been fantastic forever. The Buzz has been a great disc since it came out, you know, and I don't throw a ton of it now. I really just have the Magnets and my Thrashers, but they are two absolutely crucial discs in my bag. Magnet has probably been my favorite disc of all time, and the Thrasher is probably my favorite driver of all time at this point. I have them in almost every plastic they make. They fly incredible. I get more distance out of them than any other disc on the market that I've tested in a controllable way. And Discraft has been always making phenomenal stuff. So part of me is like, oh, now you guys want to jump on the bandwagon because Paul's here. But then part of me is like, hey, that's cool. You know, like, more people are getting to see what I already knew, was that Discraft has been making phenomenal plastic since day one. You know, they've been doing great stuff. So it's cool to see it kind of open up a little bit. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that all goes. Anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent. 2018 Player of the Year by a slim margin goes to Paul McBeth, based on the huge 18 down round, all the exposure that came from that for our sport overall and for him. He's clearly still the number one name in the game in terms of his income and the amount of money that Discraft's paying him, and also the amount of pull that he clearly has, because his Paul McBeth Discraft discs are selling like hotcakes. I'm sure a lot of those initial sales were people who are buying them just to flip them, unfortunately, because they're everywhere on Facebook and somebody's trying to jack them up to 20, 25 bucks and flip them or whatever, but that's neither here nor there. Clearly, Paul still has a ton of pull, and he's still an incredible player, and I'm giving him 2018 Player of the Year to Paul McBeth. Okay, cruising along here. We have Par Save of the Year. This one's going to my boy Ricky Wysocki, and this took place at the Ledgestone Insurance Open. Let me find my screenshot here so I can tell you guys where to look for it. Okay, if you want to see this shot, the only way to see it is to go back and rewatch some of the live broadcast from the Disc Golf Pro Tour provided by our friends Smashbox. I will miss them greatly this year for the DGPT, but anyway, round one of the Ledgestone Insurance Open. It takes place at 1 hour, 54 minutes, and 53 seconds. It is hole 6, I believe. Yeah, hole 6. I believe this is the hardest, if not like the top 2 or 3 hardest holes on the course. Ricky ends up going out of bounds, and he goes full power, full flex, crush shot with an enforcer, and just puts it under the basket. It was just ridiculous. Dixon Jowers on the commentary booth is like, man, this is making me nervous. I don't know if Rick should go for this. Tiny green, surrounded by OB on all sides. He's got to be over 450 away. I mean, well over 400 away, it seems. Yeah, he's already been out of bounds once. This could get bad if he hyzers out early. He's in a world of hurt, and no worries, puts it 5 feet away or less, really. It's just an absolute drop-in to save par. So that's the Par Save of the Year as far as I'm concerned. Plenty of other great ones, I'm sure, if I went back and looked through. But this is one of the ones that I've been keeping notes as the year went on, just watching stuff live and watching Jomez and stuff as they were released. And that's one that I don't think has been unseated. That's an unbelievable par save from Rick. Basically a full power shot to put it within 5 feet on an incredibly difficult hole. It was just unbelievable shot. So that was great. Man, we're cruising through these. Let's keep the ball rolling. Approach of the Year. I'm giving this one to Josh Anthon. This took place at the USDGC Round 2. Hole 4 took place on Jomez, lead card, round 2, front 9 at 12 minutes. He's well out of position. This shot is like an extreme dog leg. And he goes for this forehand cut roller. Gets it down on a great angle. It goes through the gap, up the hill, around, and straight all the way down into circle one to convert, I believe, for the birdie. Just a ridiculous shot. From the angle to get it all the way there, it's just crazy. The touch, the technicality, and the skill it takes to execute this shot the way he did. I believe Nico was able to execute a very similar shot during the 2018 USDGC as well on the same hole. I believe it was Nico, and did a really great job of it as well. But this was just crazy from Josh, and just so technical. And the amount of skill it takes to execute this shot is unbelievable. Highly recommend you guys go back and watch that one if you don't remember it. It was just a crazy approach shot that I think was really really amazing. One that definitely stands out in my mind is the Seppo Eagle from Delaware on the huge par 5. I believe in years past that hole's been played as a par 6. I believe on Disc Golf Monthly years ago I watched an event that took place at Iron Hill, and they were playing that as a par 6 in those days. And he got up and down for the 3. Just disgusting. That hole is just so far and through a ton of trees. His tee shot was perfect, but the second shot to put him within like 25 feet to convert for the eagle was just insane. That easily could be, shot of the year, could be approach of the year, could be up and down of the year, whatever you want to call it. Big shout out goes to Seppo on that one. But I think I just really like this approach shot from Josh. And I'm not even really a big Josh fan, but man, it's just such a great shot. I had to give it up. Okay, best putt of the year. I'm going to give you guys 2 on this one, and they're extremely different. Going back through, and if you watch like the shots of the year, best of on Jomez, there's an amazing amount of long putts, technical putts, just 60 footers for days, and just an incredible display of skill and talent from our top players. Guys like James Conrad and Simon and Ricky and Eagle and Paul, just constantly hitting these putts. And there's been a lot of different ways that you could go with this one in terms of the best putt of the year. For me, it comes down to 2. I'm gonna give it to Paul, but I have an honorable mention first. So the honorable mention goes to Zach Melton. This one is from the USDGC, round 3, chase card, hole 15. Hole 15, if you're not familiar, is the one that they throw through the triple Mando. Then you kind of sweep around to the left, and then the basket is like in this grove of a million trees. And if you don't land in the perfect spot, you'll just have nothing. You could be within 20 feet and have absolutely nothing to get into the basket. Melton ends up in a really tricky spot, and he's got very, very little window to work with. He's stretched out. He's down on a knee. He's got his right foot out under his mini, out onto his knee, on his left knee. He's a lefty. He lays out, full layout onto his stomach to release his putt, snakes it through all the trees, catches just enough chain to drop in. So technical, so difficult, and that kind of stuff is just amazing to me when you can make putts from those kind of angles. Occasionally I'll make a putt out there on the course, and if like Andy's there with me or something, I'll be like, "Come look at this! Look at what I just did here!" Like I'll leave my mini there, I'll leave the disc that was there. Like look at what I had to deal with. It was just so crazy, and that's the kind of thing that I love about disc golf so much. Is when you can make those epic, like technical putts through a tiny gap or around a tree or a pure Anheuser turnover putt from 45. Like, I love that kind of stuff. It's so fun, the creativity that comes in. So I really wanted to highlight this putt from Zach Melton because it's just so technical and so rad to pick up that shot. It was just a beautiful putt. I really like it, but it's hard not to give it to Paul overall. So putt of the year is going to Paul from Maple Hill, hole 13 in the final round. It's from like 120. He ends up way short and just full bore runs it downhill, and just it's not like he caught it right side or left side or it got a little lucky or clipped some branches and then made its way in. This was just in the heart from the second it left his hand. It comes out of his hand smooth and perfect on the exact line it needs to, and just goes dead center in the heart of the bucket. I'm actually going to go watch it again just because it's so good. You guys don't have to come with me for this. I'm going to go watch it again and enjoy my coffee.
Okay, why are we seeing a Tigger for 117?
Seen a 117-foot graphic before.
No. No! No! Come on, dude!
This is going to be the longest slow mez we've ever seen. This is a follow flight situation, Mike.
So it comes out of the hand, pure Anheuser. Touch like the tiniest bit of wobble, maybe, not really. So pure, perfect height, and it starts breaking back at just the right moment. Hits dead center in the heart. I don't see how you could really... I mean, it was basically a throw-in, but it was a putt. It was a full putting motion. So you got to give it up to Paul for that one. It's just gross. It's an absolute dream make, you know, to make those kind of putts from that range. It's just unbelievable. It's almost like an ace. I've aced holes that were shorter than that putt. Like, literally, so really cool. And, yeah, that's got to be the one. Okay, shot of the year. This one as well. Incredibly subjective. You could go a million different ways with this. Is it just a huge crush drive? Is it a putt? Is that the shot of the year? I mean, you could say that that's the shot of the year as well. 120-foot putt, pure like that, dead in the heart, in the center of the chains. Like, it kind of depends on your perspective. There's a lot of different ways I could have went with this. Let's just talk about some shots that stand out in my mind in general. Ricky Wysocki downhill on, I believe, 15, final round at Jonesboro. 520-foot downhill, puts it within like 10 feet. I love that one. Eagle stepping up and throwing the spike hyzer over the trees and sticking the island at GBO on hole 16 to take a lead and ride that lead out for the rest of the event and to win over Ricky, over Simon, over Drew Gibson. Just amazing moments like that all year long. Paul's putt to hit the 18 down, that could have been putt of the year, especially considering the significance. That could have been putt of the year. That could have been shot of the year. Several of the shots that he made during that round. I mean, there's so many different ways you can go with it. But one of the shots that stood out to me and that I'm going to give my shot of the year, incredibly prestigious. Congratulations to this gentleman. This is just going to mean the world to him to win this just amazing award from me. James Conrad's getting shot of the year, and it's from the Music City Open, hole 13. Okay, so we're going to pull up the screenshot here so I can tell you guys where to find it once again. Central Coast covered this event, 2018 Music City Open, round 3, part 2. Shot comes in at around 12 minutes and 40 seconds. It is a downhill shot. It is about 475 or so. And it's onto a very small, kind of like peninsula green. James Conrad steps up, his typical giant run-up, especially considering it's a putter shot, with one of his newly released James Conrad signature AVRs. He's arguably the best putter thrower we've ever seen. There's only a few guys I would really say can kind of hang with him in terms of throwing putters. It's just ridiculous what this guy can do with a putter. He throws this huge shot downhill, ace running this thing all the way, ends up like 5 feet away. And something about downhill shots, I just love them. I love throwing them. I love watching them fly. It's one of the most beautiful things in disc golf for me, that perfect shot. And this was actually executed somewhat similarly to how I executed my ace that I spoke about to start this episode, where you're just kind of making sure it's nose down so it's not going to hyzer out, and he puts enough power on it that he knows it's going to move to the right, and it moves right perfectly, comes in, floats, hovers, and lands like within 10 feet. On a very small green, just unbelievable control, amazing shot. I love that it was with a putter, and I'm going to give it to him. This is my shot of the year. This is the best shot I've seen. My favorite shot. Let's say it that way. You know, to say it's the best shot is extremely subjective, but I think this was my favorite shot that I had seen on camera all year long. Again, a million other ones that I could reference, but this one really stood out in my mind. I remember watching the coverage, and I immediately jotted this down on my note app on my phone as one of the shots of the year, and I'm giving it to him. James Conrad, Music City Open on Central Coast, hole 13. Just a ridiculous shot. Absolutely love it. And finally, moment of the year. This one, not that difficult this time. You could say the 18 down round from Paul was a huge moment. And I'm sure a lot of people would pick that as their moment of the year. But for me, both of these moments took place on the same day, took place on the same course, same event, and it was crowning of two brand new world champions at the World Championships in Vermont. We saw Paige Bjerkes have an amazing breakout performance and really just straight up dominate the field. She played her game and nobody could hang with her. She was throwing putters, she was throwing controlled shots, she was just keeping it in the fairway, and she just absolutely crushed the field to take down her first win. Her first big win of any kind happens to be a world title. Her family's there, her mom on the bag, the moment when she taps in the putt and she's jumping up and down, her mom's screaming, and I don't think anybody who's a real fan of disc golf and of real moments like that in sports could choke down the tears at that moment. I was crying sitting here watching it. I'm 100% sure Terry was choked up watching it on the broadcast. Just an incredible moment. And what can you say? And the thing that I love about these two moments too is the other one that I'm giving kind of co-moment of the year is Greg winning his world championship. The thing that's so beautiful about this, we have a young player just making their decision to make disc golf their life and taking down a world championship, which is something that disc golfers dream of and very few players actually achieve. Very, very few. Look at the different... We've only had a handful of different FPO world champions in general. Very few. And then if you look at the last several years, it's been Ricky and Paul, and that's it. So it's not something that really gets spread around a lot. There's very few players that can say they are a world champion in the sport of disc golf. Paige Bjerkes, she makes the decision to make disc golf a big part of her life, and she's going to go out on the road. She's going to push this thing. She has all the support she could ever need from right back home with Dynamic Discs, with her family, her friends. And Paige, her mentor, Paige Pierce, is there on the card and right there to congratulate her, right there to support her as she's competing against her. See her win that title was just incredible. And then on the flip side, you have Greg. Greg's been around forever. I first saw Greg on a Discraft Clinic video, distance driving clinic video, when he was a teenager. Him and Yuli are on there. They're both super young. They're throwing big shots on the toboggan course. Back in those days, they filmed a lot of the clinic videos on the toboggan course. And Greg has been a road warrior forever. He's had amazing performances. He's battled hard. And to see him finally take it down was just so cool. And I think everybody was happy to see Greg win. It was a super deserved title. He played incredible all weekend long. It was just a really strong performance. So many clutch moments. Long throw-ins, big putts, great shots. I really love that Ricky grabbed him, hoisted him up on his shoulders. Huge smile on his face. You know, Ricky could have been dejected. He could have been sad in that moment that he was kind of losing his reign as a two-time defending world champion. But it's all smiles. It's all congratulations for Greg. Everybody's happy. And to see the kind of juxtaposition between a young player taking down that first big win and then a player who's a seasoned veteran also kind of taking down their first really big, significant signature win. Same hole, same property. The venue couldn't be any more spectacular. And those are my combined moment of the year, was the crowning of two brand new world champions in the sport of disc golf. That's all I got for you. I believe that's all my awards for this year. Another incredible year of disc golf. I love being a part of it. One other very cool personal moment that happened for me this year was that I had some of my reviews showcased on the Disc Golf Pro Tour broadcast. That was pretty amazing for sure. I do not think that will be taking place again in 2019, but I'm still appreciative of being a part of it in a very small way over the last year. That was very cool. I will continue to keep the ball rolling here with what I do. I am definitely not done. I just caught up on reviews for the first time in a very long time in terms of having everything filmed and tested and ready to go. And I have new discs coming already to keep the ball rolling. So weather permitting, I'll get out there. I'll keep testing plastic. I'll keep reviewing plastic. I'll keep making videos if you guys keep watching them. Thank you so much for your support. It's been a great year. I really appreciate all of you. I have a lot of new subscribers and new viewers that are coming on all the time, and I absolutely appreciate every single one of you guys. Thank you so much for your support and for being part of my channel. Stay tuned for a lot more content coming out soon. Oh, one other cool thing that happened that I want to let you guys know about. My buddy Anthony from the Heiser Project, he is the one who did my DGN logo. He also runs the Heiser Project, which is like an apparel accessories company. He actually did a prototype run of a Disc Golf Nerd hat with my DGN logo on it. That will be coming in the mail within a few days, and I will definitely post a video and let you guys know about it. And if you're interested in that, we're probably going to do like a kind of a pre-order type deal, just to kind of gauge interest to see who's into that. And then we're going to put in an order to do a run of DGN hats. If anybody's interested in that, that would be pretty cool. I think I'll definitely be rocking one. And it would be a total trip to know that there were people out there on the course rocking a DGN hat. So yeah, stay tuned for that. That'll be exciting. But anyway, much love to everybody out there. Thanks very much for listening. Very much looking forward to another incredible year in the sport of disc golf. And I love being a part of the disc golf community. I love interacting with all you guys, and I look forward to doing a lot more of it. Thanks for listening. Cheers.